So I figured I've got you here. Obviously, we should watch that small role you did for Genshin Impact.
Sure. Yeah, man.
How many hours were you in there for? Like
it was really aggressive and really short. If you look at something like Fire Emblem, I mean, we recorded that over many months. Genshin, man, I must have done 30 hours in a single month, maybe, maybe 5-6 weeks. It was like they had everything at once and we just blew through it. Yeah, I remember like them being upset with me because they were like, okay, we need 21 hours in the booth over the next like 3 days. And I was like, I'm out of town. I was like, I'm leaving tomorrow.
Yeah,
so no, I can't do that. I can give you a max of 10.
Those sessions are very efficient. We just did my event actually with Dvorak,
Nice.
which was cool. Yeah. And I think the first time I did it for Lantern Rite, it was like 2 4-hour sessions and it was like just boom, boom. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. Obviously, we're going to talk about music, but since I have you here, did you feel like with the energy is different for something like Three Houses, which is like incredibly dense and so like there's a lot of like stage like scenery to chew with Three Houses? Did you feel like it was a slightly different because of the characterization being slightly different?
Three Houses does have a lot of like plot to go through. Not that Genshin doesn't, but the plot in Genshin is so disparate, like, right? It's spread thin over lots and lots and lots of characters, whereas Three Houses really had like a very central main cast. So like anything that happened in general, Claude was aware of, right? Like it wasn't like anything happened outside his purview. Whereas with Wriothesley, almost nothing happens that's in his purview if it doesn't happen within the fortress, right? So there's tons of stuff going on in Genshin that like I'm still not even personally aware about because it like it just didn't make sense for anybody to. I didn't need that context, right?
Yeah.
The Claude role felt deeper in a different way, just because there was so much access to so much more information, even though it was like a similar amount of booth time.
I think it'll be really cool is if we listen to like Fodlan Wins from Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Yeah, cool.
That song slaps. And then we can listen to Wriothesley's character demo. It's funny, like Genshin's really moving into this like fun little EDM thing, but I think for some characters, it really makes sense. Like for your character, like with the Fists of Ice and stuff, like there's something about that tonal quality that is really cool. So
well, this would be cool because I haven't heard, like I was on streaming yesterday and someone's like, oh yeah, you go do the event with Wriothesley's theme. And I was like, Wriothesley is a theme? Like, I had no idea.
Yeah, well, let's listen to that first, actually.
The Iron Lion Team Arena Showdown, huh?
There's a ton of credit coupons up for grabs, but you'd have to beat the undefeated champion to get them.
Oh? I'll give it a shot then.
Alone?
I forgot I did this.
What, don't think I'm up to it?
A lot of secret handshakes going on.
That's his grace for you. He single-handedly made it to the final bout.
Finally.
Oh, I
Now
remember.
let's see who it is.
Please put your hands together for our undefeated champion. The rules for this match, anything goes. Fighters, test your might. Fight!
Just as I suspected. Let's do some scrap disposal then. Have a safe trip. Let this be a lesson. The next time someone disables the security restrictions on a Gardamek without authorization, report it to me promptly.
Yes, Your Grace.
Oh, please, you love a challenge in the ring, don't you?
That's why I asked for a timely report. I'll decide how to dispose of the problem.
Nice. Man, that's like old stuff. I like completely forgot that I had done any of that.
Isn't it funny how your brain just like
yeah, stuff happens so fast and there's so much of it that like you literally just forget.
I recorded like 2 months ago and the event just came out that I'm in and I was like, I don't remember any of this.
It happens. It happens that fast.
You know what's interesting to me is that like, so I actually hadn't seen that. And what I find funny is how music and text and like scenery sort of fill the gaps for each other. And like, so as actors, you know, we attempt to like have the most intention and to be in the room with the director and like really make sure that we nail, and you do this so well. It's actually super inspirational for me to like nail choice and like how like a why I'm saying what I'm saying, but also musically it's really cool because like we get this like bright quality in there, even though it's like super mechanical sounding, which also like makes sense because of his hands and this.
Sure.
It's so fascinating how music works.
It is really cool. It's interesting when people were telling me yesterday, like, oh yeah, go listen to the Wriothesley theme, and someone mentioned that it was EDM. I was like, what an interesting departure from Genshin, because like now I have, you know, maybe like a couple dozen hours in the game total just from streaming. I'm like, I just finished like Lihua. All I know of the game are these like beautiful orchestral landscapes that are like really intricately sound designed, right? To like weave in and out of combat. And then you've got like, all right, we're back to, you know, 2005's dubstep.
Yes.
And it's just what an interesting choice to make for Wriothesley. And it doesn't not fit, right? Like I can't imagine what else you'd put in there. It doesn't, it really, it fits well.
It's also really cool. Like if you look at like a piece like Rex Incognito with Zhongli, like there is a little bit of a drop there when his comet falls or the meatball, the meteor. And that's really the thing about Genshin that I've always found most like fascinating to me is how locked in it is with like cultural identification through music. You're right. It does fit. Like, could they have done like a classical florid thing? Maybe, but this also works extremely well. But I mean, you know, to pivot to something like Fire Emblem, that is a totally different soundscape. What's interesting to me is how rooted Fire Emblems, well, historically with all the Fire Emblems, and also how cool that you were in like a series that's been around for so many years. It's like, it's so
pretty awesome. Yeah.
But Three Houses though, it has this like real root in this classical soundscape and this intensity. You've heard all these themes, I assume.
Oh, I mean, I tore into this soundtrack. We listened to all of it, trying to come up with the album choices for the sax arrangement and stuff like that. And I've done, so absolutely, very, 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 very familiar. And obviously I've played through Fire Emblem in its entirety at least twice.
Let's listen to it anyway, and then we can like stop and start.
You get a little bit of that like breakbeat thing.
Yeah, I know.
Very, very, very subtly in the back.
Yeah. I hadn't noticed that.
I hadn't either. What a great tune. You put a different ear to different things, right? Like, so I've listened to it playing the game, just enjoying it. I've listened to it from a potential standpoint. Can I remix this into like sax music? And I've listened to it like from the sax arranged perspective billions and billions of times as I recorded it, right? But like sitting here and listening to it with another music analyst, I don't know, like, you know, like from that perspective is really interesting. And I don't think like there's a lot of stuff that I noticed right away. I feel like the composer had like a dartboard of chord changes, and he was just like, now, right? Like the chord changes happen on upbeats, on like 16th notes before a beat, like all like the different chord changes are happening with that, like the portato in the cello and bass, like that boom, 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 boom. Like they're all over the place. There is nothing remotely standard about like where he was making those shifts. And I don't think I ever noticed that before.
What was really interesting is the subtle piano in the background that was like arpeggiating. And then I was thinking to myself, like, cause I come at it from like an opera singer's perspective. So like, how do we like get this emotion like across the lip of the stage? And like, what I found really interesting is that there's a like almost a class that you hear it. So it's interesting because we both noticed the EDM-y thing, which I hadn't even heard. Yeah, I was like, oh, I didn't know that was in there. But like the strings really highlight almost like a privileged like school setting. You know what I mean? It's really interesting.
Yeah.
But then the piano too was in there, and it's funny because I always try to think about like, okay, well, why does someone write what they write? And the thing is, we don't ever know. It's because really it's up for interpretation. It's a funny thing, but like the piano too, like it's just a little disjointed. And part of me is like yeah, that's a battle theme, but I wonder how much of that like could possibly allude to some of the like stuff that happens in the middle end of the game. You know what I mean? Like it probably doesn't, but like it's just fun to like percolate on.
Yeah, I mean, like any kind of arpeggiated string instrument or, you know, percussion instrument, harp, piano, always kind of lends the idea of something celestial, right? Like anytime like we're kind of tuned in to like, hey, let's think about religion almost, right? Which is like a pretty central theme of the game, especially as you get towards the end, you know, whether we're imposing that interpretation or that was there is.
It's also cool that like the organ does that really well too. In video games, like the organ is always usually related to some sort of antichrist, which is really funny. In Dark Souls, I think there's an organ that symbolizes like the sun at one point with a character. But like in general, I find it interesting how video game composers especially like highlight certain musical instruments to reference something. But what I also really like, and actually this is funny because a lot of games that come out, they have very similar patterns to that. I forget, that's the main theme's motif, right? That's the main theme of Three Houses.
Sort of. It depends. Like it's interesting because what they title as main theme is actually organ. And it's what happens on the main menu as you're watching Sothis sitting on like that big stone throne with the green.
Yeah.
It's like ba 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 ba. It's actually the bell theme that occurs when you run out of activity points. You hear bong 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 like a school bell, right?
Oh,
that is actually what you hear. Is like the first notes you hear the organ do after the drone. Fire Emblem Three Houses in and of itself, it's really hard to pick out like what themes are everywhere. And actually we had this issue when we were trying to figure out what to arrange, because we would get to each song and be like, oh shit, that's Garreg Mach again. Like over and over again. Like we're like, oh, but you don't notice it until you get it because it's weaved in so differently.
Yeah. That's
extremely carefully planned from a motif perspective. So much so that like until I spoke those words out loud, I didn't realize that bong, 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 bong is the main theme.
But that's the genius, right? And that's the thing that like, especially when you especially with Three Houses, like a game like that or Persona where there's like hundreds of hours of content. It's like, it's funny how like the music like really seeps in and it becomes, and this is why we get into this like discussion a lot about context versus no context. There are certain musical themes that require context to like really like sit and digest with, and then you don't even realize that you're like, and it's funny because motifs, like in the Wagner sort of perspective, like motifs are such an integral part of like an experience and locking an emotion. And it's so funny how motifs really do that better than and melodies everywhere, but like it's funny how there's a certain musical phrase that once it locks in, like answers for Final Fantasy 14. I know you're a big fan of Final Fantasy.
I am. I'm very bad with the titles of the music tracks for Final Fantasy 14.
Let's just watch it.
Yeah, let's bring it up here.
We'll watch Final Fantasy 14, A Realm Reborn, End of an Era. Why not? They really make you wait for it.
Yeah. like that and their releases. Is this the tune you're talking about?
Yeah. This is the answers. This is how they ended 1.0 when they rebranded.
Oh, right.
When the moon comes down, yeah.
This game is so much fun. Like, there are a few games where the backstory behind the making of is as interesting as the game itself.
I know. Like the fact that they restarted the game.
Yeah, they're like, let's blow up the world in the game. And then that'll just be kind of it, huh? Yeah. We'll just start it all over again.
No, we're starting over.
This was like the most brilliant save in gaming history.
Yeah, I think so too.
Oh, yeah, this tune. Okay.
Yeah. Man,
Damn, I don't think I've ever seen that.
really?
Yeah,
Oh,
like where would it have played in the game?
well, so it plays right at the beginning of A Realm Reborn, and it played right at the end as they closed the servers when they rebranded. So it would have played right at the beginning of ARR.
Wow. And I like think what happened to me is like I started and stopped ARR like 3 times before I found the right people to encourage me, right? You know what I mean? Like
I do know.
it's interesting now having the context of the rest of the game, going back
Yeah.
and watching that's pretty cool.
It's so funny about music is that like the meanings that we attach to things, and like what we all perceived that to mean one thing, but then when you approach, careful of spoilers, but when we approach the second, like the end of this series, and it circles back to that, and it blends the two. It's such an amazing thing that music can do. That's like, again, it's like this thing that, like, you know, yes, you can act, you can talk about, but there's like one thing in music to really feel. I don't know if you feel this way, but like really connecting to music, like,
Oh yeah.
it can transcend like what we verbally can't really describe.
And that's the point. Like that's the point of art, right?
Yeah.
All art is a reference. It doesn't matter like what it, even if it's a play where people are talking, right? It's not about what they're talking about. It's a reference to something else. Not to get like too geeky, but like the idea of like that whole collective unconscious, right? Like the idea that everybody is connected. And the way I always view it is I view like that idea that we're all connected, that collective unconscious, whatever you want to call it. I don't care what you call it. It's like this sticky soup, right? And artists reach into it. And when their hand comes up, they have these like strings, and then they just pluck them, right? And it vibrates. And then it resonates with you in a way that like you don't really understand, but you feel the vibration, like you feel that connection. And you can never cloak that experience in language. It immediately diminishes it. So it's like that's art, right?
Yeah.
That's art.
Well, that's one of the things sometimes, like, I mean, I'm grateful that we live in an age where you can get recordings and stuff, but like, that's one of the things I've had guests on there, like, you know, traditional, you know, purely classical musicians, and, and, you know, their argument is like, this is nice, but this is not the same as seeing something live. And it's interesting because most of the media that most gamers consume, if they don't go to the symphony or can't go for various factors, is this thing that's like sort of reproducible. So like you never get the like sense of like the ending of a thing, and like when there's a vibration after a piece lands, or like when there's a real big fermata and you just like feel this weight before it launches into the next phase, like you don't necessarily feel that, which is why context is so important in terms of video game music. But it's such a powerful experience. I know you felt this, like just that, like, oh, you know what I mean? Like that collective thing. It's so true.
And as soon as you try to put it into words,
it's impossible. I mean, yeah,
it's less.
You know, speaking of motifs, have you ever played Ace Combat?
Yeah, I was actually in Ace Combat.
7?
7.
Nice.
Right? Whatever I don't think there's been any more that have come out.
No, they're working on 8. But 7 was the last one. Oh,
okay. Yeah, I was in Ace Combat 7 as full band.
Have you heard any of the music from Ace Combat?
Yeah, actually, I played Ace Combat 2, I think, maybe 2 and 3.
Oh my God!
Correct me if I'm wrong. It's a very like Sakuraba kind of like driving rock landscape. Right?
Yes,
for the most part.
Yes. Until, and this is the thing that messes me up, because when I listened to it for the first time, like someone was like, "You should listen to this," and I was like, "This is gonna suck." I was like, "How is this gonna go?" And then I listened to it, and it was Zero from Ace Combat 0, which is flamenco. And I was like, no way, you're shitting me. And then I listened to Unsung War, which is like a choral anthem. And I was like, no fuck. And then I realized that there is literally like liturgical writing in this stuff. So it's like a modern day, like Bach mass. So what I wanted to share with you actually is from Ace Combat 0. It's the epilogue, and it's actually funny because I'm pretty sure it's Yuri Lowenthal. Yeah, he plays Pixie in 0.
Okay,
and it's just like him talking about. Well, this happens at the credits, but like the last scene is like Yuri's character like talking about war and stuff. It's also Matt Mercer was in Ace Combat 4. He was the lead in Ace Combat 4. Like Mercer. It's just funny. I just assume you know all these people because
I do. I mean, yes,
because these folks have been doing it so long. It's like fascinating to see them in like their like early days of stuff. You know?
Yeah, it really is. I remember I replayed Final Fantasy 12, and like I was like, "Is that Yuri?" It was like this game was made in like, like before I was in the Air Force, right? And it's just like oh wow.
Oh, and then Troy Baker's in Final Fantasy 13 as Snow,
Right.
like young Troy Baker. When were you in the Air Force?
Let's say 2003 to 2013-ish.
Nice. Were you flying?
No, I was in intelligence.
This is
Okay.
the Zero motif.
Oh, I was in Final Fantasy 9 there for a second.
Oh, Vamos al Flamenco.
Yeah,
You're a man of culture, I see.
That's pretty cool. Have you ever like actually been to a flamenco performance?
I actually haven't. It's on my to-do list.
It is like really worth it as a bucket list item. I went to 2 of them when I was in Spain. I've never seen some people clap so well as the people like,
Yeah.
like there's this like insane mental map that everybody on the stage, and it's 3 clappers, 2 dancers, and usually like 2 guitar players. The dancers really make it. They really make it. It's like, it's pretty cool.
What I find really like poignant about having flamenco in like a fighter plane game of all things, so it ends up being more like Metal Gear than well,
I get it.
What's fascinating to me is just how emotional. Yeah, there's a lot of like that prog rock sort of like Kobayashi does that a lot, and obviously, yeah, there is definitely like a Sakuraba vibe in there as well. But like, there's a bright metal prog rock quality to a lot of the tracks. But then you get tracks like this, which like transcend. And I think like there's like that sexual like energy about the flamenco where it's just
Yeah,
like,
that is very, 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 yes.
I think that's why like I've really like fallen in love with video game music in general, is because it's just like so unique.
It is. I think there's a lot of like unfettering of composers when it comes to video games, especially like once they become established and they don't have to like conform to anything. Like if you do this sort of thing in a movie, it doesn't necessarily work. Like it throws the audience out of the experience if you were to like throw a random flamenco thing in the middle, or it turns it into comedy, right?
We've listened to songs that, you know, from games you've been in. We've listened to songs that we both like. Do you have a song off the top of your head that you would like to share?
You know what? The thing that just popped into my head, we were talking about this, I think I would have a really difficult time finding it, and it's not video game music. I was thinking of, did you ever watch like the original seasons of Red versus Blue?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm talking like the first season.
Yes, probably the only season I ever watched of Red versus Blue.
One of the funniest music cues I've ever heard in my life is from like episode 8 or some shit of like the original Red versus Blue, and I would have a very difficult time.
Yeah, I feel like that would be very hard to find.
But it's basically like boom chicka, like Tejano music, and it happens like at the precise correct moment with the precise correct dialogue. I remember crying, laughing.
That show, and it's like in the infancy of the internet and like where it was in the zeitgeist of time. Like it was perfect.
Yeah, man.
Well, so I get in trouble frequently about Halo because I didn't play it. Like I have no, like I played it like at LAN parties or like at my buddies, which is most people. I feel like they're like,
that's me. I have no idea what happens in Halo, right? I know that a pistol can kill you in one shot. 500 yards away.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know what happens. There's aliens, right? And then like eventually there's other aliens that are worse than the previous aliens,
right?
Well, like then there's bugs.
There is a piece deference. What's it called? Deference for Darkness. Actually, it's got sax in it, so maybe we should listen to it.
Okay, you're not talking about like da 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 da. You're not talking about like the traditional Halo.
That's the main theme. No.
Now, if you had told me that that was in Downton Abbey, not from Halo, I would have been like, yeah, duh.
Of course.
Right? Like, I can't even think of a place in a Halo game. Now, again, not really having ever played.
Yeah, no, same. I mean,
I must have played through some of them because I know I own them at one point. But like, I have no idea where that fits in the context of a Halo game. Very surprising. One thing I noticed is that 3-note motifs have like been a thing for like 20 years, right? Like at least 20 years.
At least.
Like, da-da-da. Sometimes like I listen to music, and I'm not pooping on the composer here at all, but sometimes like I listen to music and I'm like, oh, I've written 3 notes, I'm done, right? Like all I need to do now is build. I've written the core, now I need to just build something
around it.
Yeah, like the Game of Thrones. Yeah. Actually, only 3 notes. Ba-da-da. That's it. Occasionally you pull it. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It's just that for like 2 minutes.
I started this by saying there's sax in it, and then we listened to it, and I was like, where is the sax?
It's like the sax player woke up from a nap and played long tones to warm up, and then went back to sleep.
And you play sax, so I'm actually curious about this perspective. But you know what's funny? Maybe it's the mic placement, but what I really like about that actually is that you can hear sort of like pushing of the air through the reed,
almost. You can almost like hear the
breath of it.
Probably mic placement up towards like the neck versus the bell. Like you get a little bit more of that. Really interesting. Could be the mic they use too. But yeah, it had that velvety smooth quality. Maybe a ribbon mic.
The texture is slightly different, isn't it? When it's something like that.
I experimented for a while recording saxes on ribbon mics, and you can kind of get that sort of like that like baked warmness in there. You can kind of
we hear it in voice too. Like one of the things that I'm really intrigued by with singers, especially, is coming from the opera world, like where we were basically trained to be as perfect as possible. Like I remember I saw an opera live, and I was like, oh my god, this is the most glorious. Like it was like Rene Pape, like beautiful bass, like singing like Mephistopheles and Faust, and it was like it's just like whoa. And then I watched the HD performance, and like at the movie theater, and I was like,
this is flat, huh?
Yeah, it was like all you heard was byproduct, and it was so interesting how the acoustics of the Met, like were, you know what I mean? It's like so interesting, all this mic stuff, and how like a bad mic placement destroys.
Yeah, it goes the other way too. Like there's one of my favorite I don't even know if like should I name that? I don't know if that's like kosher, but like one of my favorite prog metal bands in the world, like I've seen twice. I love their stuff. Their shows suck because the sound man or the sound area, it's like I cannot make out what the singer is singing. It just sounds like this wall of noise, and like nothing is sculpted. And I don't know if it's just because like the arenas that I've seen them twice, and each time I was like, okay.
Just listen to the album.
I would so much rather listen to the album. Like the stage presence was fun, but so yeah, it works both ways for sure.
It's interesting, but yeah, I need to play through Halo ODST because I have no idea where that is. Because I'm intrigued. Like clearly there's something sad happening, but like what?
What is what? You know, like I have a track that made me pop up a track that I can throw at you here. We'll go way back to me not copying it correctly. Let's try this.
Oh shit. Okay.
Are you familiar with the beginning and the end?
No.
Are you familiar with Xenogears?
I am. Yes.
Have you played it?
I've never played it. I played the first 30 minutes on my PS Vita the other day.
Man, is this game 100 years ahead of its time? Like it was never finished. There's like a goofy story behind this game too. The second disc is almost all narrative. Like you don't play for most of the second disc because they ran, I think I'll have to go back and check this. This could be apocryphal, but they basically like ran out of money, and they were like, well, we have to release this. Okay, just put it all in. It's like put all in voiceover, right? Like just have someone narrate it, and you get the second half of the game, which would have been like unbelievably heavy, and it's just characters sitting in a chair, right? It's like a character sitting in it. This is 1998, right?
Yeah.
A character sitting in a chair, sometimes with a pendulum swinging behind them, talking through the events that probably would have been very fun to play through. But then it sort of picks up where you pick the controls back up towards the very end of the game, and then you finish it. Man, so much missed potential, and still one of my favorite games of all time, even in its incompleteness. So this is Yasunori Mitsuda. So this happens at the very end of the game. You know, what's a JRPG if you're not killing God, right?
Yeah.
But the cool thing about Xenogears specifically, this is to me, you're not killing God. I don't think they wrote it that way. I think you're killing the idea of God. I think you're killing God as a metaphor. Whoa. And it's really, it's fucking heavy. Like that game is like a Jungian puzzle box to really sit and play through.
I've always
I'm terrified
heard that
of them
about
ever
that game.
remaking it because I feel like they'd ruin it. But but this tune, like it comes out at the end, and I remember saying to myself, like, because Mitsuda does this several properties he has. I'm like, where are these women that he finds that can do this with their voice? Like, does he grow them? Are they real? But it's like every one of them is like, so yeah, this is one of the most unique tracks, I think, in Xenogears, which is a phenomenal soundtrack.
Awesome. All right, I'm excited because I don't know it. So, all right, cool. Oh. Wow.
Like, where are these people?
It sounds like the Suikoden 3 opening.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crunchy.
Isn't it? It's like Eric Whittaker in a Japanese RPG.
A reference only I will get that I appreciate.
I thought you'd get it. That's all right.
Is this the boss fight?
It's like the end boss fight. Wow. But I actually think it might be before you fight it, when you're kind of setting up the idea of what you're about to do.
Oh, that big break.
That break is great.
It's like a Slavic chorus.
It's great. I forgot how long this builds.
Oh my God. So clean.
Yeah. Very cool. What is this lady doing?
I love the slightly louder second pass. Wow. Holy shit. And it doesn't resolve.
Nope.
Oh my God, dude.
It just fucking hangs there for eternity. I love that track so much. I can't even like begin to describe. And you're correct. So I don't know which Slavic language, because this word means glory in almost every Slavic language. But what they're yelling at the end there is Slava. So it's just one word. She's just saying Slava over and over and over and over again.
Dude, you just cracked my skull open.
I'm like sweating.
I'm over here like, I've got the Animal Crossing main theme ready to go just in case you fucking bust out the beginning and the end. Fucking.
Dude, there's so much in that game. They did a version, an orchestral release of it, maybe like.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I have heard a track from that.
This track is on it. It sounds great. It's nothing like that. Like, it's just, it doesn't have whatever they had, whoever they are.
Yeah.
In 1998, they probably recorded it in 1996. Holy shit. And then it just stops.
Yeah. And that's the crazy thing, is that like, that's one of those pieces where you don't need context. Like, I'm sure it's like extra special with context, but that like blew me away. Like, I literally like, I've been fiddling with like figuring out how to program like video game music. I have like a couple guys that want to get together and really like create a concert series with like a chorus and stuff. And that I was like, it will never be like this exactly, but
you have to find that lady.
she's like,
you got to get on Reddit and figure out who the hell that is.
What I really like about that piece, what's it called? The end of the beginning, the beginning
and the end. It starts off like the first words of the game are "I am the Alpha and the Omega."
Yes,
which is obviously biblical reference. Like it's you can't hide the whole fuck the Bible kind of thing that's going on in Xenogears as a whole. You really can't hide it, and it almost got shelved because of how critical it was of religion as a whole, but it certainly leans real ass heavy on like Old Testament stuff.
I like how raw and visceral that was. I'm wondering if what you'll think of this. Have you played Phantom Liberty, the Cyberpunk DLC?
No, I haven't played Cyberpunk. A
modern twist on what you just played for me is this song this is by P.T. Adamczyk, Never Looking Back, from Cyberpunk 2077's DLC, Phantom Liberty.
Get Blade Runner vibes right away.
Oh yeah. Well, that's basically Cyberpunk setting anyway. It toes the line.
That might be the longest I've ever waited for a drop. We got it at 340 out of 348. Finally heard a boom in there. That's cool. You know what? Like if you handed that to me and you were like, "Hey, this is the same singer from the Xenogears track," I would almost believe it. Like I was sitting here trying to Google like, who is that person, but I couldn't find anything.
There's something about that white singing. You know how when we talk about like classical singing, it's like, you know, raising the soft palate. Oh,
yeah,
that's like just like.
It's all in the nose, like it's
it's all in the nasal, and it's like how do they do it, and without hurting themselves either.
Tribal almost, like it feels, you know.
Yeah,
very cool.
It's crazy when they ask me to yell, and I do like 3 takes, and I'm like, okay,
that's good.
Like, can we move on? Meanwhile, they're singing like pure, like from the throat, and I'm like, I would not survive. How do they do that? We have to find a happy song to sort of put this button this chat.
This is where you're gonna pull out Animal Crossing. Is that like?
So I'm gonna let you pick. Either it's the Animal Crossing New Horizons theme, which is cute and got some saxophone. I picked the saxophone tracks. I'll be real. Or I've got Battle from Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
I don't know where my brain went here, but if you want to end on a note that makes you feel very confused inside, we can listen to Mario Paint soundtrack.
Yeah. No,
have you never listened to it?
No, I haven't.
Dude, it's so disconcerting, right? I have to find the right track.
All right, you take
because
your
it's
time.
So weird.
Like good weird or bad weird?
It's whatever you want. Okay. Well, this sort of fits into like this isn't the one that I think I'm remembering, but maybe it's just because so on the main menu of the game, like while you're looking at the like listen to this theme, you can screw with some things and like it'll change the music. So maybe that's where I got the starting feel. But this is a happy tune that, but like, is it the me theme or the from Wii, right? Like the right? Mm-hmm. Have you ever seen the one where they extend the pauses?
Yes. Yeah.
It's like that level of like when's it? You know, like it has that feeling to it.
Oh God.
It's like
there's the yeah.
It makes you feel uneasy.
A little.
Now I think I'm remembering when you touch certain things, certain instruments drop out. So sometimes like you just would stop hearing the melody, or like only hear certain parts of the melody, and it made your insides itch.
I mean, there's clearly a melody, but like I want that underneath ostinato. Oh,
here we go.
There it is.
Like it's just easy enough to make you feel awkward.
Yeah. That's weird,
right?
Oh, it's like, yeah. Also, you think it would end before this?
Is it just loop here? I can't remember if it does anything different.
It loops.
Waveform looks like it does something different.
Does it loop?
It does loop, and then it like just kind of fades off into existence here.
Have you heard the Pictionary theme?
No.
Hold on. This is stupid. This is literally the Pictionary main theme.
Like from the, is there a Pictionary game? Like a...
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Why?
I don't know. I don't know.
Is this bad dude? Or is this...
I can't tell you. The syncopated rhythm too. And then you think it loops, but it doesn't loop.
No, it doesn't. Why does it go so hard?
I don't know. I don't know. That's a sax. Here you go. There's a saxophone.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the button. I think that's because it's a game of quick draw, so it's like, what you got, bitch? You know what I mean?
I don't know that there was any level of actual calculus involved in making that.
Especially at that
I
time
wish
period.
I had the time and talent to turn that into what I hear in my head with that ripping saxophone solo, like just 90s cock rock.
Yeah. Yeah, 1,000,000%. Well, Joe, listen, thank you. I mean, it's a treat to get to, like, you know, obviously sharing some Genshin stuff, just sharing some Three Houses stuff, but also just chat about music. I know you're a big music lover. And
yeah, that was
gamer,
one of the most fun interviews I think I've ever had.
Good. And thank you everybody for watching. I'll tag Joe's socials down here, but you probably already know him. Thanks a ton, and we'll see y'all later. All right,
See you
bye
guys.
everybody. See ya.